All right. Everything's green. Getting ready. All right. So, hold on. Okay, it's muted. So I don't have to hear myself. All right. So, Hellboy. Just got out of it like a couple hours ago. Let me see. Quality's okay? Yeah, quality's okay. Okay. So Hellboy got out of it a couple hours ago. I heard of the incredibly horrible reviews about it. I mean, at Rotten Tomato, I believe it was like at 10% at one point. Now I believe it's almost 15% or higher. I didn't check right now, but it was that low. So I was worried, because I heard a lot of awful things about it. I was looking forward to it because I do like David Harbour. I do like the look of it. When I saw the trailers, I did like the look of it. I do like Mila Jovovich. When I heard that she's cast as the villain, I was excited for it. So I was hoping that it would just be a fun time. I didn't expect it to be as good as the Guillermo del Toro Hellboy movies, but I still expected just a fun time. And to be honest, this movie wasn't god-awful. But I admit, later on, as I keep watching the movie, I do understand why people didn't like it, but I don't think it's as bad. And here's the problem with, like, Rotten Tomatoes. It's the average. So if a lot of critics give a bad review for a movie, then it's going to count as rotten. And it takes the percentages of all the rotten reviews. So if one guy gave one good review, but everyone else gave like shitty reviews, that's how it calculates it. So it's based on averages. And also, even for the good reviews, some people say the movie's okay, but it's still fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. So even the movie, if it's like 100%, may not be very good, but a lot of people gave it positive reviews anyway. Same thing with Hellboy. For me, if I say it's okay, that would be like average. It could be half rotten, half fresh. I'm not exactly sure how they calculate it. So it's like 50-50 for me. But again, depending on Rotten Tomatoes, it might count it as a rotten anyway. So I don't think this movie's that awful. Hell, a couple weeks ago, I saw a much worse movie that was Dumbo. Still, I can't believe why people why people actually liked it in terms of the audience, but whatever. So for me, this was mostly a fun time. I like David Harbour as Hellboy. I thought he was fantastic. Yes, I know a lot of people are saying sacrilege because of Ron Perlman. And yes, Ron Perlman was great as Hellboy. But you know what? Guillermo del Toro and Ron Perlman couldn't make the third movie work. They want to try this again, but they said, okay, you know what? We're not going to make a third movie because without Ron Perlman and without Guillermo del Toro, people won't like it, so we decided to reboot it. I get that. A lot of people are saying, why don't you just make a third one? If Guillermo del Toro Guillermo del Toro could make a third movie anytime, but here's the thing. He is a great director, and he's visionary. I admit it. But he doesn't finish things a lot. And that's a good and a bad thing. He's a perfectionist. If he feels like it's not working for him, he will quit. And I respect that about him. But at the same time, if you want a Pacific Rim sequel, he's not going to work on it. Unless he'll take a lot of time with it. So that's why a lot of people were upset about Pacific Rim 2, that it's not directed by him and it's not as good as the first one. Same thing here. People are going to be pissed either way because he did not work on Hellboy, this movie. But again, Guillermo del Toro, fantastic director, doesn't get things done. Hell, he was in charge of the Hobbit trilogy and he couldn't finish it. Again, there's a lot of stories about that, and I understand that he's stressed out, but that's the thing. He gives up on a lot of projects. I'm just saying, great director, visionary. He couldn't finish it. That's all I can say. So, I can't blame the actors, the directors, and the writers on this one because I feel like they were trying to make a good Hellboy movie. That's not just as faithful to the one as the Guillermo del Toro Hellboy movies, but I haven't read the comics, but I feel like it's trying to be like the comics as well. Because I heard that the comics were gory, there were more curses, more blood, more violence, and if this is an accurate representation of the comics, then I say, okay, fine job. However, it's not perfect though. When I heard news that there were 16 producers on this, I was incredibly worried. And it showed. Oh my god. The editing, especially after the first 30 minutes of the movie, the editing was really wonky. And it's weird because this is a R-rated movie. And it seems like it's happy that it's an R-rated movie. So yes, there's a bit of nudity, there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of gore, there's a lot of cursing. Yet it seems like it was shot like a PG-13 kind of movie. I haven't seen the Deadpool 2, you know, the one about Christmas that's in the format of a PG-13 movie. I haven't seen it, so I'm wondering if it's like that, like it feels subdued. But it's like they actually got the approval to be R-rated, so they just splatter blood, CGI blood all over the place. So that's how it felt like. It felt like it had no idea what it wanted to be, like a PG-13 dark movie or a rated R, balls to the wall, you know, action bloody movie. And the reason why the first 30 minutes worked for me is because it felt a lot like the Evil Dead movies from Sam Raimi, who worked on the Evil Dead trilogy. It actually felt more like Army of Darkness if Army of Darkness was full-on rated R. I know there's a bit of blood and some dark elements in Army of Darkness, but as I recall, I think that was actually PG-13 because it really wasn't as violent as Evil Dead 1 or 2. Unless the director's cut was completely different, but I've seen it. I don't think it was that dark. But yeah, it's very campy, but it's fun. And it also mixes in the horror well, too. So when you see Hellboy fighting off a vampire, and he's fighting off 3 giants, and blood is all over the walls and stuff, and he's making jokes, and even though it's a dark movie in terms of the atmosphere, he's cracking jokes as well, he's cursing, and it's just fun. And then we get to the main plot, where it got kind of stale. Mila Jovovich, I really like her. I do. I hate the Resident Evil movies, but I like her. She was wasted in this, which is a goddamn shame. Oh my god. You have the main actress of the Resident Evil movies. I mean, say what you will about the Resident Evil movies, but at least you could admit that she looks badass in a lot of the shots. She's an action heroine of that. So I thought, okay, her being the Blood Queen facing off against Hellboy, there's gonna be some awesome action with that. It might not be a good movie, but at least it would give us some interesting visuals with her fighting against Hellboy. And at first it seemed, she seemed very interesting. She got her head and her limbs chopped off immediately, and she wants to be resurrected again. She's still alive at that point. She was trapped in these chests for thousands of years, and then when she got back together, then she got her blood back together. She has this, I'm not sure if it's exact telekinesis. I don't know much about her because I haven't read the comics, but it seems like she's like a bloodbender. So she was able to stop people in their tracks like Magneto, like Magneto stopping Wolverine every single time. It's like that, except I believe she's controlling their blood. I'm not exactly sure about that. Either she has just telekinetic powers, or she's able to control the blood of people, because they didn't really emphasize about what exactly she's able to do. I know she could summon a portal, which I don't know exactly where she goes. She just shows up in London, or, yeah, she shows up in London all of a sudden, and I was like, okay, I guess she made a portal to London. All right. She's able to disintegrate people, give them, like, sores all over their faces and stuff like that, drain them of their blood, so she seemed like a very interesting villain. There's not even a fight between her and Hellboy, which was a goddamn shame. I was like, how is he gonna take her on? She could control him at any point. She could just freeze him at any point. How is he able to defeat her? It was a weak ass It was weak. The climax with her and Hellboy was weak. I couldn't believe the way they ended like that. It wasn't even a fight. It was just embarrassing. I'm like, this is how you take down the Blood Queen? Oh, God, this is... man, I was hoping they'd do so much more with her. I thought there would be more to her powers, or probably even a second form that she's like a god or something like that. You know what? I even... what was it? Blade. The movie Blade with Steven Dorff? Yeah. When he became the blood god, you know, every time he gets his limb chopped off, it comes back and reforms itself and stuff. And even if he gets cut up, he just regenerates. Yeah, that was a more interesting fight than Blood Queen versus Hellboy. That pissed me off a lot. Wow, what a goddamn awful payoff. So that's it about the Blood Queen. I can't even talk much more about her because she's really not that interesting. There is one interesting scene where she's, you know, dismembered and stuff, and she's watching television, which was kind of creepy and funny at the same time. But other than that, there's no humor to her. There's nothing. I thought that she would, Mila Jovovich was trying to be over the top with her, but not over the top enough to make it fun. She seemed subdued. I felt like she had more scenes as the Blood Queen, but they decided to focus on everyone else, which was a terrible choice. And if that was the case, just cut her out of the movie. Seriously, Mila Jovovich should have been cut out of the movie. There was a more interesting villain than her, who is Baba Yaga. Or Baba Yaga, depending on the pronunciation. Not only is the practical makeup amazing, I mean, I wanted to throw up because it was just that gross. Seriously, Baba Yaga has a very interesting design to her. She's this grotesque looking woman with one eye and her face looks like it's melted. She looks like she's been rotting for thousands of years. So her breasts are all the way down here, but she's wearing this very revealing low cut dress. So I thought her breast was gonna pop out too. So that was very creepy. And she has these like metal peg legs on her and she moves in a very interesting way, like Regan from The Exorcist when she's doing the spider walk, but her arms are being she's like a contortionist as well, so she's moving and like that, writhing. She was very interesting. She's only in it for like maybe 10 minutes at max, which is really, when you think about it, she's really wasn't necessary as well. I mean, when I'm thinking about it right now, what did she serve in the movie? She was just a distraction, I think? I don't know. Very interesting distraction, but they showed her in the beginning of the movie. So I thought, so is she working with the Blood Queen? But not exactly, no. She's just telling this giant warthog-looking, bebop-looking dude on where to find the pieces of the Blood Queen. But she was very interesting. She had a huge personality. She had a very interesting scene with Hellboy. I'm not sure why she wasn't the villain. I mean, Mila Jovovich is beautiful. Yeah, she's beautiful to look at, but you might as well just have Baba Yaga be the main villain. I don't understand why. Or you could combine both characters. Like, Baba Yaga is the Blood Queen. She became like this and she believes it's Hellboy's fault. So she wants to be young again and then she manages to become her true self, which is Mila Jovovich. Why isn't that the storyline? That would have been more, better, more personal actually. Because the Blood Queen didn't even know about Hellboy until she finally got resurrected. Seriously, when she got killed off, and it's because of King Arthur, yeah, it's going there. It went the Transformers route. I haven't read the comics, so yeah, King Arthur. When I heard of King Arthur in this movie, I was like, okay, this is going really balls to the walls crazy. She got chopped off by King Arthur. She's in these chests, and it's the chests were sent all over the world. So yeah, basically like the mother boxes from Justice League. I mean, Yeah, that's a bad thing too. I prefer Steppenwolf over her. Because Steppenwolf actually did something. Blood Queen didn't. Steppenwolf actually put up a fight. Well, against the, not Superman. Alright, so back to Hellboy. The makeup on him is really good. And to be honest, I like this look a lot more than Ron Perlman's Hellboy. This one is not as clean looking. He has scars all over his face and all over his body. He has these interesting looking markings on him. And also his horns aren't exactly clean shaven. So he has to keep shaving them off to make it, to keep it, clean, like flat. But there are a lot, throughout the movie, it keeps growing and growing, so he has to keep shaving it off and stuff like that. I like that. The rugged look to him looks pretty cool. And David Harbour, he's, I know that Hellboy is a lot like an angsty teenager, even though he has been with, I forgot the character's name. Bloom? John Hurt or Ian McShane's character from the Hellboy movies. He's been with him for many, many years, but he acts like an angsty teenager. I bought that more from David Harbour than I ever did with Ron Perlman. I'm sorry. I know Ron Perlman made his Hellboy seem very uninterested and more lazy, but here he's against things, but he doesn't want to be against his father. So I kind of prefer that a bit more. But even I must admit, I felt like there should have been a lot more scenes between Hellboy and Ian McShane, because I honestly kind of bought this relationship. Kinda. The relationship between Hellboy and John Hurt in the Guillermo del Toro movies is more heartfelt. I admit that. But the problem is that that Hellboy is a little too lazy for my liking. In this one, he wasn't lazy. He's just a bit against what his Ian McShane says and does, but he still follows him and he still comments on it. So I prefer that a bit more than just laziness. You know what I mean? But the thing is, I wish that they explored more about this relationship. Unfortunately, they showed a lot more near the end about their relationship, about what they're talking about. Because at the end, I felt like that wasn't a good payoff, because we needed more scenes like that. Because it became way too heartfelt at the end. Because throughout the movie, Hellboy was pretty much arguing with his father over exposition, basically. So it doesn't feel as natural, but I felt like there should have been a lot more. But again, Ian McShane and David Harbour were perfect with each other, to be honest. I actually did buy them as a father and son who don't always agree with them, but they do love each other. So at least I bought that. But again, like I said, at least in a way, the Guillermo del Toro Hellboy movies, they did the relationship better because it was more heartfelt. But here, I wish they could have done more with that dynamic. Ian McShane was great, and he cursed in the first he cursed in like the first 2 seconds, which made me laugh because I was like, all right, it is an R-rated movie. I have my validation. Yeah, because even though I went into it knowing that's an R-rated movie, still it's satisfying to hear Ian McShane saying, fuck it. Ah, man. So, yeah, I'm glad that's rated R. I'm glad. And you know what? The blood and the gore, a lot of it is CGI, which, yes, it looks very cartoony, but for the most part, in a very fun way. But I don't know. A lot of critics say it's unnecessary blood and gore. But then again, I kind of don't feel like it's unnecessary because humans die because of these traumatic events, So what do you want them to do? Just not show it, not show the carnage, just cut away from it? Do not show the dead bodies and stuff like that? I mean, that part kind of... When I heard that from the critics and watching this movie, I'm like, the blood and gore's fine. I mean, it's to be expected anyway. Oh, it's unnecessary. Really? it's unnecessary. I don't understand that. But when it's actually practical, like you see the brain oozing out of the dead bodies, and it's not CGI, it's actually real, it looks good. But the cartoony blood, yeah, it does look incredibly fake, but it's used in a lot of the action scenes with Hellboy anyway, so it is fun. My favorite part throughout this entire movie is this fight between Hellboy and the three giants. And the first half of the fight is like this unbroken one-shot take of him taking down two giants, and it was fun. The rock metal was playing in the background. He's just running away. He's getting hit like a ping pong ball, and he's trying to survive. These giants have like a hammer, a machete, and I believe it's like a giant cutting knife. So he's trying to defend himself. He was punching them with his right hand. He used trees to stab them in the eye and through the chin and stuff like that. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. Actually, I think that fight scene is the best action scene in the entire movie. And that happens within the first 30 minutes, which is a goddamn shame. That's what I hate about a lot of action movies recently. They show one of the best parts too early on. It could have been the final part even. But no, it's always in the first part, which makes you believe that the fights from now on are going to get better, but they don't. They don't. And it's a crying shame, because I was like, okay, that three giant fight scene was fun. I wonder what's like gonna fight against the other giants that we saw in the trailer, and also the Blood Queen. How is that gonna look? But no, it never got that good. It never got that good. Not even close. Not even 10% that good. So there were other supporting characters as well. There's this girl, I forgot the character's name. Alice. Because they talk about Alice in Wonderland. Which is funny because I just finished Detroit Become Human. The playthroughs are being uploaded soon. So that was interesting. So yeah, the girl named Alice, who has these psychic powers. She could hear the dead people, and she could actually punch the life force out of people as well. So that was cool. And she ends up becoming a fighter, which was strange because she never fought before. Then all of a sudden, she's an excellent fighter. And she's like, I have no idea how I'm doing this. And so she ends up helping out a lot. And she never becomes the damsel in distress. So I am happy about that. But she has this very grotesque ability. It's shown twice. Where, if she touches a recently dead person, she could channel the soul of that dead person. But what she does is that she regurgitates this giant intestine-looking blobby thing of the soul, I mean the ghost of the person, and the majority of it is like this giant gooey like Jabba the Hutt looking thing, and then at the top of it shows like these puny hands, rotting hands, and then the face is all preserved. So I was like, oh god, it's just gross. Not just that, the CGI was god awful. It did not look realistic at all, which I'm not sure if that was the intent, but my god, that is just gross. But I will admit, it was unique. It was unique, it was interesting, I was okay with it. But it was disgusting as fuck. So she has that ability. Then we have Daniel Dae Kim, who plays Damio, and he was fine. I mean, I like Daniel Dae Kim, and I'm glad that he's part of the main cast. Like, he is, even though he doesn't show up until, like, the first 30 minutes, yeah, he doesn't show up until 30 minutes in. He was fun, and his British accent was not bad. I felt like he was kind of unnecessary. It's interesting, he turns into a giant cheetah. Were-cheetah? Yeah, were-cheetah. That is the correct term, actually, when I think about it. Because werewolf means half man, half wolf, so it's were-cheetah. Were-cheetah. So yeah, he becomes a were-cheetah and was fighting alongside Hellboy for two action scenes. I was wrong. One big one, one little one. And yeah, he was fine. And the group dynamic was fun. Again, I wish that it was, they did more with it too, so I felt like there were more scenes with them as well. To be honest, a lot of my complaints would be solved if this movie was 3 hours long, but it can't be 3 hours long because no one will watch it. Let me see, what else? So this warthog, bebop looking guy, he had way too many scenes in the movie, which, to be honest, he is interesting. But for the majority of the movie, it seemed like he was also just the main villain. He was against Hellboy. He wanted to kill Hellboy the entire time. He keeps seeing Hellboy, he runs away from him, he fights him, he becomes like a Super Saiyan warthog-looking guy at the end to fight him and Were-Cheetah dude. So, yeah, he might as well be the main villain because he is there throughout the entire movie. Again, why? I don't understand it. I know, you know, there can be interesting henchmen throughout movies, but if you show the henchman a lot more than the main villain, something's wrong, especially if he is more interesting than the main villain. What else can I say? The setting is fine. The setting, the environments throughout the movies, I felt like could have taken a little bit more inspiration from Guillermo del Toro. But for the most part, the creature designs look cool. Especially the ones with the giant creatures that's terrorizing London, destroying everyone, killing people with their feet, chawing them off, cutting them in half. The blood, the carnage looks fine. If you expected more scenes with Hellboy with the flaming sword and the giant horns, be disappointed because that's only at the end, and the majority of that is in a dream sequence. So yeah, be disappointed by that because he doesn't do much with that, which is a shame. But other than that, again, I don't think this movie was god-awful. I would say it's mediocre at best. The first 30 minutes is my most favorite part, and I do like the actors, I do like the actresses. It should have been way better. Hopefully there's like a director's cut, like if Neil Marshall, who's the director of this, is able to make his own version before the producers fucked it up, I would gladly see it. Because I felt like he would make it, the editing would be better, the storytelling would have been better. And here's the thing, even though it's mediocre, I do want to recommend it because David Harbour did his fucking best, and it's a shame that a movie like this will probably won't be good at the box office. I mean, this comes out 1 week after Shazam, and a couple weeks after Dumbo, and this one comes out a couple weeks before Avengers Endgame. So it's very hard for people to see this. And also it's rated R, which means that yeah, a lot less people will see it, and that's a crying shame. I want to recommend it, I really do. And that's the thing. Maybe I'm in the wrong. Maybe this movie is terrible to a lot of people's eyes, but to me, I've seen so many awful movies. I appreciate movies that really try their best, and instead they get fucked over by producers or the writers or certain people, and you just want to see it in the full entirety so you could really judge it. Like, okay, even if the director had his way, maybe it could have been god-awful. Who knows? But this movie had 16 producers. You could definitely tell because the editing was out of whack, especially after the first 30 minutes. And yeah, again, I really want to recommend it, but I can't. It's especially in theaters. I mean, who knows? All I can say is this: the Guillermo del Toro Hellboy movies are definitely better. But I must admit, though, the first Guillermo del Toro Hellboy movie, when I saw it for the first time, I hated it. I really hated it. I thought that everyone was out of their minds when they said they liked it. But I must admit, when I watched it the second time, I ended up liking it, and then I watched it more times. I did love it. I really did. But again, the first time I watched it, I really thought it was dreadful. So who knows? Maybe this one might be a cult favorite. I don't know, but I want to. I really hope that this movie gets a shot. Maybe it makes enough money to make the budget back and all that stuff, and maybe it can make a sequel. Because again, I really want to see what they can do with this, especially at the end. There's 2 special cameos. One for an actor who I really like. So that's it about the Hellboy, guys. That's about 30 minutes long. So I'll see you next time.